In this video about bookkeeping, I will do a review of writing a check demonstrated in QuickBooks. And here I am opened up in my QuickBooks. You may have a link to your left side here called My Shortcuts. I don't have this set up right now. I'll do a video on that. But in this drop-down menu for banking, you'll see Write Check or Control W. Does the same thing. Opens up this little window. Now, I'm just going to click this and make this bigger. And before I go any further, I'll explain that this is not the same as writing a check for a bill you have entered. That's a different procedure. This is just generally how you would write a check in QuickBooks. Now, it will default to your bank account, which for me is $10,000. It's good to double check that before you go any further. You'll see my ending balance is 0. I have not done a lot of activity in this fake company, so that's why it says that. But whatever your balance is, once this is done being written, it will be that. So it lets you know what your balance is as you're going. It's kind of nice to know so you don't have to go back and look at the register or the chart of accounts and see your balance. So you pick the vendor or person you're writing this check to. Generally that's a vendor, and probably will be entered as a vendor anyway. Now I could start typing, and if it remembered, it would come up. Now I only have one vendor, so I'm going to use that one vendor. I can just choose it, or if I remember it, I can start typing it, and then it brings up the vendors. So being that this fake vendor is office rent, which in reality it would be a company name you'd rent your space from, just as an example in a small business. But regardless of the vendor, you'll always want to choose the right expense. But to get to that in a moment, I'll leave this date as it is. Usually it defaults to the day you are, today's date, or depending on your settings, if you've done multiple things and saved something, it will be the last date you used. So again, you want to keep an eye on that, and generally I date things for the day I write it so I can remember if I need to reference back. Put the amount in. I'm going to use 1,000. So after I do the number, and you'll notice it does the decimal point for me, I can put 1,000 and that does it. If I want to do, I can do that, and it'll put the 0 in there. Then in another video I have setting up vendors. In that video you'll see when you set up a vendor in the profile there's a way to put in an account number or something like that, and it shows up here in the memo every time. So I'll say this vendor, we have an account number. That's not always the case, and you don't have to leave it there. You can delete it. And here would show the vendor's name and the default address. I do not have a default address. Then the next important thing is right here. You want to choose the expense account that is appropriate for what you are doing. If it just so happens I have an expense account set up. You can always choose all your expense accounts, and you can make a new expense account. If you go to the top, add new. But I'm happy with rent expense. Now what's important is, once you save this, I left it as print later. I'll show you that real quick. But once you hit save and close, it's good to remember that whatever this number is, the whole number here, will credit to this account. When you're writing a check, this is automatically, whatever this number is credited. Lowering, I have a video on understanding credits and debits and how accounts are affected when the balance goes up or down from 0. clearly from wherever this balance is, it will go down this amount. Now, in the expenses, this or multiple expenses, this is not an example of multiple expenses. This or whatever numbers are down here, if I had multiple, would increase this total on this tab. And this will be debited moving up the expense. I've got a greater rent expense. It moved up from 0 because I wrote this check and stating an expense. So that's how the accounts are affected. I'm going to hit Save and Close. Now from my File drop-down, I can go to Print Forms, and I do this a lot. You can print pay stubs, checks, paychecks. That's way down the road. But I wrote a check, and I left it as Print Later. When you come here, and this is ideal for when you have many checks. You just choose your check number that's the lowest, your next one in sequence, and you choose it. And then one or multiple checks would print in numerical order depending on what number you put up here. It could be 1, it could be 5, 7, 4, 1. It doesn't matter. Whatever your next check number is, you want to put there and make sure that is the check number, and you can hit OK and go on to print. I'm not going to go that far in this video. I just want to show you this is where you can come and print that check. I'm going to cancel out for now, and I'm going to go find that check. Control F is find, and I'm going to choose check, and that's the vendor. I can choose by a date range, the check number, which I'd never assigned one, so that wouldn't work, or the dollar amount. But I know there's only one, so I'm going to choose office rent. Find. Here's the check. It came up. I'm going to double click and open it. Here it is. You'll notice this ending balance of my account is 1,000. It's just a fake company, fake account. But because I wrote this check, it will do that. I'm going to unclick Print Later. I can type a number for the check number in here if I only have one check to write. You can go here and print the check. Yes, I want to save the changes. And by not wanting to print it later, and I just print it now, I get this box. I simply put the check number in here, and I hit OK, and it prints. So you don't have to go, I'm not going to save this right now, you don't have to go here and print forms and check. But when you have multiple checks, it makes more sense. So that's a quick review of writing checks. I will do another video on how to pay a bill with a check and many other ways. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe.